So a coach, consultant, a trainer, that could be someone that does disc and leadership training. It could be a personal, like physical fitness trainer. Anyone that helps someone get from A to B, this is perfect. And I'll tell you a little bit about me, how I came up with this training. It's actually backwards. I started my career as a sales professional, and that's how I lived. I started off selling cars, and this is actually where I learned something called the question path. Just a very simple method to get folks from A to yes. And I sold indoor alarms and security systems for homes and small businesses. And then I sold a service. It was for professionals that got dirty, people in factories, mechanics. We'd launder their clothes and give them new uniforms, etc. And then I sold, what else? Oh, software. That's a lot of fun. Then I sold consulting services. I'm back in software. And so I've taken all this experience and asking folks for their business over the past 10 years. I've done over 10,000 presentations. So for me, it's like, yeah, hey, here's a great product or service. It's going to help make your life easier. It's going to solve a problem for you. When do you want to get started? It's very natural for me, not because I was born with it. It becomes natural over time because I practice it so much. Now, as I evolved as an entrepreneur, I realized that isn't something a lot of them have practiced. They come from roles that are back office. It's not often that they talk directly to customers. They're not always handling money. If they are, maybe they're in billing or procurement. They're sending an invoice, right? They're sending a statement, a scope of work. They're not really talking to people. So I found a need where I could add value to entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, trainers, and help them grow their business from what I've been doing every day for years. So here's lesson number one. Lesson number one, write this down. What's the need? What is the need? One of my favorite stories, this is back early in my career when I was selling cars. He comes in, I'm showing him all these great cars. This younger man, and he's looking around. So I say, hey man, let's check out this Corvette. He said, eh. I said, check out this Camaro. He's like, eh. I was like, check out this Charger. Like, eh. I was like, check out this Mustang. Eh. And I was like, well, what do you want? And that's become the theme for my business, is asking better questions, right? I said, well, what do you want? That's a question I should have asked him at the beginning. Well, he said, Bruce, I found out my wife's pregnant with twins. We need something with space for 4 people. He didn't need to buy a sports car. His wife probably would have been pretty upset. So what I do is show them small SUVs in his budget and have space for his growing family. And he took the car home that day. So question number one, and we'll write down some questions on this. What is the need? What is their need? The first thing that you can do to hear yes more often, to have more success in closing the sale, is make sure you're solving the actual need that they have. That sounds so obvious, but if you skip that step, they're not going to work with you. All right. So that's number one. The first step to hearing yes more often is asking better questions. That's number one. What is the need is a question you need to have an answer to as their coach before you can move them to the next step. Number two is asking the right person. Asking the right person. There are some people that just shouldn't work with you. They're not your ideal customer. So Ashley Marie's on here. I know that she helps people move from their 9 to 5 into their entrepreneurship journey. So if this person has been a full-time entrepreneur for 5, 10, 15 years, she may be able to add some value. She's pretty awesome. But that's not our ideal client. That's okay. So first of all, we're going to ask better questions. The second, we're going to ask the right people. And then third, this is the tough one. Third is asking more people. Here's an example. Let's say I asked 100 people, hey, do you want to work with Bruce Hill? New skills, new you. I asked 100 people, do you want to work with me? I'll put in the chat, how many people do you think would say yes? You can be honest. It was a guess. 30. Okay. 30 out of 100. Actually, that would be phenomenal. But check this out. What if I asked 100 coaches, consultants, or trainers, and I said, hey, do you want to hear yes more often without sounding like a salesperson to help you grow your coaching business? So I asked 100 coaches, consultants, and trainers, hey, do you want to hear yes more often? Do you think I would hear yes more, less, or the same? Exactly. You're going to hear yes more. The questions haven't changed. If you're asking good questions, because I know coaches, consultants, and trainers, their clients has to say yes. That's not necessarily clicking a button, downloading a checklist, or they're usually working with a one-on-one in a group. So they've got to talk to them and make sure it's a good fit. They want to hear yes more often. That meets their need. See how it comes back around? And what's really interesting that I learned over the past 10 years as a sales professional is that sales skills really are almost universal. They can be used through dinner conversation. They can be used dealing with your children. They can be used in an interview. I think there's a lot of negative emotion when I hear this word sales. So we're going to pause and step back. When we talk about closing the sale with confidence, right? The reason you're here, we want to understand, what does sales mean? What does selling mean? So I encourage you to write this down. I define selling as the transfer of enthusiasm from one person to another. Selling is a transfer of enthusiasm from one person to another, period. And when you have this definition, it takes the money out of the picture. Now, if you're running a business, if you're an entrepreneur, that needs to be the next step, but it's not the first step. So one thing I want to help you do to hear yes more often is focus on transferring the enthusiasm from yourself to them. If they have a need, this should be pretty simple, maybe not easy. So how does this work? Check this out. Let's use in the chat, Ashley Marie says, need time freedom from their 9 to 5. They want more travel, more time with their family. So I understand their need is, I want to know where they are now. So, well, I'm at work. I work 60, 70 hours a week. Maybe I'm traveling a lot for work. I get meetings at all random times of the day. I'm missing out on family events, sports, cheerleading, whatever the case. I'm not spending time with my spouse as much as I want. This is my need. Now, if you told me, hey, you can make the same money or more and control your schedule so you're not missing the events that are important to you, and I can help you do that in just 3 months to a year, they're going to get excited. They're going to say, what? Really? You can help me make it to our son's basketball games, right? You can help me get to my daughter's soccer practice. They're going to get excited about that. And what's really magical about meeting their needs is you really don't have to have any high pressure sales techniques. You really don't have to. I could teach you, but I'm not going to teach you overcoming objections. I'm not going to teach you high pressure tactics. I really want you to focus on 3 simple steps. And when we talk about closing the sale with confidence, if we look at sales as transferring enthusiasm from one person to another, we don't have to convince them to sign up. They're excited to sign up. If it's right, asking the right questions to the right person, to enough of those people, somebody's going to be excited and they're going to say, hey, what's the next step? What do we do now? So really what I focused on is using better questions to understand their need and transfer that enthusiasm. You as a professional have to recommend the next step, and we'll get to that. This isn't how to convince anyone. If you have to convince them, they're probably not a great client. If you have to convince them, they're probably going to be a headache down the line. So I want you to focus on transferring the enthusiasm. How do you do that? How do you do that? Step 1 is to add value. Step 2 is to solve a problem. Step 3 is to ask for the money. And that's actually the first digital course I created. It was called Ask for the Money. And it really is about setting the next step. That may be a dollar amount, that may be watch this video, that may be schedule a call, that may be fill in the blank. But you have to give them a next step. So let's start at the very beginning, adding value. Go ahead and put in the chat, what value do you add to the people that work with you? And this is even before they sign up for a coaching program. This is what a lot of people get backwards is they want to put the money first. Why should people be excited to work with you? I'll go first. I help coaches, consultants, and trainers hear yes more often. I teach them sales skills to build their confidence and grow their business without sounding like a salesperson. So if someone says, hey, I want confidence, hey, I want to grow my business, hey, that skill would be valuable to me, they'll get excited. And so I share value all the time on Twitter. We do Clubhouse every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's a lot of fun. Links in the bio if you want to join. What else? And I try and make it all very educational and practical so they can take it and use it right away. So I tell people, hey, if you work with me, here's the end result. You'll have the confidence to ask for the business and grow yours. So a lot of people look at that and say, man, I learned from Bruce already. Oh, perfect example. This webinar is a great example of adding value. It didn't cost you anything but your time to show up. That's adding value. The value comes first. That's where people start to build that enthusiasm to work with you because you're solving their problem. And they believe that you solving their problems is going to get them closer to the goal. That's why it's number 2. When we say solve a problem, this is why I work with anyone that offers a transformation, right? A coach, let's say it's a life coach. I want a more fulfilling life. Let's say it's a consultant. Hey, I need to save money in my business. I want to increase productivity. Maybe it's a trainer. Hey, I need to learn how to do X, Y, Z, whether that's physical fitness or maybe you're learning knitting. It doesn't matter if that's what they're excited about. They don't know how to get from A to B. You're solving a problem for them. And this excitement, this enthusiasm is building. So I hope you see what's happening here. At no point have I taught you the 4-step close, or at no point have I told you to master persuasion. If we're sincerely here to help transform people's lives, we're adding value to their life, we're solving a problem for them. The next logical step is, hey, how do I get what you're offering? How do I get some of that for me? Because now we've transferred the enthusiasm. Perfect example. The movie came out not too long ago, Spider-Man, No Way From Home. My friends came in to the group chat, said, Bruce, this is the best Marvel movie ever. I wasn't going to go see it. But they said it's the best ever out of all, I don't know, how many, 15, 20 movies? They're like, yes, it's the best ever. I'm like, okay, that's pretty exciting. They transfer their enthusiasm to me for the movies. I'm going to go see it. They didn't get paid for that transaction. They're not affiliates for the movie studios, right? So what's where we have to separate selling from money. It's transferring enthusiasm. You've probably done this too. There's a restaurant you tried, it had great service, the food was amazing, the prices were okay too. You tell your friends, hey, listen, we've got to go here. We've got to have brunch next weekend. We've got to go to brunch here. You're transferring enthusiasm. That's where the sale happens. Now they're excited too. Like, really? I've never heard of that place. Tell me more. We want to get this mindset in our business. If we're excited what we do, because sales have transformed my life, sales was the first time I ever made 5 figures in a month. Sales is the first time I've had some location independence. Last week, I was able to go to a wedding out of town for one of my best friends. I didn't even have to take a day off of work. It was great. So I could work and I could be there for the people I care about. That's what we want. I'm excited about that. So I know if I can do that, I can help other coaches, consultants, and trainers use sales skills to grow their business with confidence and not sound like a salesperson. So now they're excited. They said, really? I don't have to sound like that annoying salesperson we all hate? Hey, I'm going to hop on the webinar with Bruce and see what he's talking about. So now this third step, right? We've added some value. We teach them, I think I did a recent post, how asking better questions can lead to better results, right? And I had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? I added some value. Solve a problem. I did a workshop for a notary. This works for anyone that has a service that transforms a business, right? You're trying to close on a house. You've got to have notarized documents or you don't move in, right? And so I walked him through how he could use questions to grow his business. Okay, I solved a problem for him. He didn't know which questions to ask. Now he does. The next step Oh, perfect. She says she's a notary. Perfect. I have let's see, January 15th, we're doing a specific segment for notary. So stay tuned. So the next step, this is where a lot of people miss out. And this is where we're gonna dive in a little bit deeper. Ask for the money. Again, I said it over and over again, it's not about the money. That's why it's the last step. The first step is adding value. The next step is solving a problem. Then we want to have a next step. I chose the phrase ask for the money because that is a trigger for some people. And I really want them to go in with confidence, right? That's why it's the name of the webinar. Because I want you to be confident. If you're adding value, if you're solving a problem, you should be excited to get paid for what you do. I believe that if you're not adding value or solving problems, I'm going to say those phrases over and over and over again, and you're just taking money without offering that, that's stealing. I don't teach that. This is a wrong webinar. So Ashley says she feel like she'll pass out. It's understandable. It's a tough, uncomfortable question to ask for people. So we'll spend a little bit more time here, but I wanted to have that framework, right? I want to have that framework. We're asking the right questions. We're asking the right people. We're asking more of the right people, right? We're going to add value first, solve a problem, and then we'll take the next step. So how do we do that with confidence without sounding like a salesperson? First things first, you have to believe in what you're offering. Does it work? So you can make a note of that. Ask yourself, does this work? I've done this before. I've done this over 10,000 times. I know it works. I sleep very good after helping people because I know that if they practice what I teach them, their lives will be better. That's the first thing I've learned in having more self-confidence and less anxiety, because I remember when I was struggling, I was working 2 jobs and still behind on bills. And I remember when I was frustrated because I was always at work and I would miss brunches and happy hours and birthday parties. And somehow I still didn't have enough money to make ends meet. And I know that when I started to learn sales skills, my income went up and my time went down. So if I could teach you something that would transform your life, I have absolutely zero guilt in charging you for that. Somewhere along the line, we feel guilty. If you're feeling guilty, ask yourself this: is working with me going to make their life better? If it isn't, go back to the drawing board, find a problem to solve, find some value to add. Now, if you ask yourself, does the product or service I offer make their life better? And the answer is yes, you should be excited to share that with everyone. Even if they're not your ideal client, tell them so they can tell someone who is. So this is the close number 1. It's called the next step. Hey, listen, Bruce, based on what you've told me, here's what I want you to do next. Okay? This is an example of a sale. I've asked them to complete an action. That may not necessarily be money. So let's again, money is the last step. What's the next step? Hey, I need you to check your email. I sent you a proposal. Okay. Hey, great. You'll be a perfect candidate for our university. You can register here, right? What's the next step? Go watch this video and then schedule a discovery call. Next steps. As a professional, you want to guide them along the way. They should not be confused. They shouldn't have to figure it out. They shouldn't have to go search your website. Guide them to the next step. You're the leader. You're the expert. Let them know what it is. So even though the phrase is ask for the money, we want to make sure they have a clear next step. Let's pause there. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. I want to pause right there because I do this every day. I don't want to assume that you have the same knowledge I have. That's why you're here. I want to make sure we're addressing what works and doesn't work in your business. Any questions? Any questions? Ask them in the chat. All right. That means we're rocking and rolling. All right. So the next question I like to ask is, say, hey, do you have any questions for me? Now, this one's counterintuitive because if you understand the problem that you're solving, and they shouldn't have any questions about what you do. They shouldn't have any questions about what they need. That might be another training on asking questions to uncover that. So, the ideal answer to that is, hey, can you help me with this? That's a good question. If the client asks you, so you can help me, right? Absolutely, yes. You maybe give an example, a success story. Hey, look, I've done over 10,000 presentations. I know that asking better questions leads to more success. Okay, great. What other questions do you have for me? Well, clients is going to say nothing. That lets you know that you understand their needs and they understand the value you add. So then you say, hey, if I can help you solve your problem, fill in the blank, does it make sense to work together? Write that one down. It sounds like this problem has been bothering you for a while. I can help you solve it. Does it make sense we work together? Use your own voice, but the end of it should be, does it make sense for us to work together? Now, one of two things will happen. They'll say, one of three things. They'll say no. They'll say maybe or some other uncertainty. Or they'll say yes. And then we go back to close number one. Here's the next step. If they say, let's say maybe, the first thing people do is they try to convince them. They try to say, well, you should definitely work with me. You definitely need to do this. You got to do it right now. That's not what I teach here. You're in the wrong place. If they say anything other than yes or no, there's something we've missed. So your first instinct whenever your client says anything should be to ask a question. It's not to tell them anything. It should be to ask them a question. So let's use the example. Well, I have to talk to my husband. I have to talk to my wife. Say, great. What are you going to talk to them about? And wait for an answer. They're either going to not have an answer, it means it's an excuse, or they'll have a legitimate concern. Legitimate concerns, I hate to use the word overcome, they can be solved. They say, hey, I talked to a perfect example. I talked to a client today and I said, do you have any hesitations about getting started? Right? They said, yes. I asked them, what's your hesitation? It's so simple. It's so simple. So she told me, she said, hey, we're closing on a house. I said, okay. When is the house going to close? She told me on the 20th. I said, great. Once the house is closed, do you have any hesitations about getting started? She said, no. I said, great. So after the house is closed, we're going to get you enrolled and we'll get you started towards solve the problem. She said, yes. I said, wonderful. I said the next step. I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to shoot you a text message with my contact information, and I'm going to make a note to follow up with you on the 21st. Make sure everything went smoothly. That sound good? Yes. It's done. We hung up. So even though there wasn't a financial transaction, do you see from, and this is literally 4 hours ago, you see how she has a clear next step and expectation? And I have a clear understanding that she doesn't have any other obstacles to working in that program. So let's say that example was pretty legitimate, right? They're closing on the house. That's not an excuse. Let's say they have something more vague. Let's say they say, well, I want to talk to my wife. I got to make sure it's okay with her. Check this out. What was the very first thing we said was making sure we understand their need. I'll ask them a question and say, hey, how long have you been married? Oh, we've been married for 5-7 years. Great. Oh, that's beautiful. Cheers to many more. Does your spouse know you have this problem? Yeah, of course. Okay. And you said you've had this problem for X number of years, correct? Yeah. And you said you've tried one, two, three to solve this problem, correct? Yeah. Do you think your spouse will want this problem to go away? They'll say, yeah. I said, well, listen, you know them better than I do. What do you think their concerns would be about you solving this problem and allowing me to help you do that? Well, I don't think they'd have any concern. Okay. Do you have any reason why they would say, no, I want you to keep this problem? And they'll say, and they'll either say, no. I'll say, great, let's get started. Here's what we need to do next. Or they'll say, yes. And I'll say, what do you think that is? They might say it's the price. No, there's a couple different philosophies here. I generally, at this point, haven't told them how much it costs. If we want to do a one-on-one for what works best for your program and your personality, we can do that. But I generally don't tell the price until I understand very clearly that they're ready to move forward. It's not a secret. It's just no point in saying, hey, this sandwich, this dinner, this meal is $10. And you're like, okay, well, I'm not hungry. So that sandwich could be delicious, could be amazing. That was all your favorite toppings. I don't know. But if I'm not hungry, it doesn't matter if it's free. So I don't, again, it's not about the price. We're trying to offer a transformation. And if it's a good fit, we'll discuss the next steps. But if it's not, then, well, let's move on. Remember, I told you, asking better questions, asking the right people is key to hearing yes more often. Sometimes we're trying to feed people that aren't hungry. So we ask them all these questions, right, about their spouse. The spouse says, she doesn't want me spending money. He wants me to run any financial decisions by him. Okay, great. Now I might tell him the price. Well, I say, hey, listen, let me ask you this. One last question before I tell you how much it costs. How much is it going to cost you if you don't solve this problem? And this is very important. This is something I struggle with, is to pause and listen. I'll tell you a secret. I've been doing this for 15 years and a professional in sales for 10. That's another story for another day. The most powerful sales skill, the number one sales skill in the whole world, in any industry, is listening. I've made more money with my mouth closed than I have with my mouth open. I've talked myself out of some sales because I was too busy trying to convince people and I wasn't listening to their need. So now I understand its price and I understand that they're concerned about the financial impact. And it could be a legitimate reason. It's hard out here. Maybe they don't have a lot of extra money month over month. But if it bothers them enough, gonna make time for it. Perfect example. I guess that's my new catchphrase. Perfect example. Last Beyonce concert, there were so many people that were skipping paying rent, they were skipping car payments in order to go to this concert. And I'm sure it was amazing. She's a phenomenal performer. Nothing but love for her. But my point is, you're afraid to charge people for something that's going to change their lives forever. That's inherently selfish. There's no transformation without a transaction. That's what my coach teaches me. We have to charge them because that investment in themselves holds them accountable. One of my favorite quotes is, when people pay, they pay attention. And that helps you as a professional as well, because if your lights are off, if your internet's off, now you're not serving at your highest capacity. Emotionally, you're not going to be present. You may not be able to reach out to your clients. If your phone bill's cut off, right? If you have to go to the library just to get Wi-Fi, you have to make money in your business so you can serve more people. You have to make money in your business so you can add more value. You have to make money in your business so you can solve more problems. The world is better place when you are operating from a place of abundance. So in order to reach that step, you have to ask for the money. And I want you to be confident to do that if and only if you are adding value and solving problems. So, close number two. I only like to do two. Um, Confused people don't buy. I want very clear steps towards their next to their next goal. Close number two. And there's really only two. There's a next step and then there's a financial one. I'll say, hey, based on what you're telling me, I recommend my Asking Better Questions program, right? It's 4-week coaching program, live one-on-one, or if you need something more flexible for your time, you can use the digital course. Which do you prefer? That's question number two, or close number two, excuse me. Which option do you prefer, A or B? There's something very valuable about this close because it doesn't suggest yes or no. It's either yes or yes. Hey, I can solve your problem. In order to do that, here's option A or here's option B. Which works better for you? I generally like to start with the higher dollar amount and then go to the lower amount. So say, hey, working with me one-on-one 4 weeks is just $1,500. Or you can grab the digital course or do a live workshop. It's just $197 and it's usually held on Saturdays. What do you prefer? And say, hey, I need some one-on-one help. Great. What email should I send the contract over? We'll get started scheduling you tomorrow, whatever the next step is. Tomorrow we'll reach out and get you on the schedule. But so we know what, Bruce, I feel like I've got most of these pieces together. I just need a little tweak. When's the next workshop? Hey, great. Let me check the calendar and I'll send you the link to sign up. I don't convince anyone. I present clear options for them to solve their problems. If people want to solve their problems, they work with me. If they don't want to solve the problems, I let them keep them. There's lots of books on negotiations and persuasions. This isn't one of those places. So let's do a quick recap. We want to meet their needs. We understand that sales is a transfer of enthusiasm. We're adding value first. We're solving problems. And then we're asking for the money. We're asking them for the next step. What's interesting is a lot of people miss that last step. They add all this value and they're afraid to ask. Why are they afraid? There's usually 3 reasons. They don't have confidence that it works. They feel guilty when asking for money, or they have some anxiety around what to say. What are they going to say back? So let's discuss that. There's no magical formula for overcoming anxiety. It's a very simple path, but it takes some work. And it's practice. I'm not a natural born anything. I put in a lot of practice. To overcome that anxiety, I had to practice asking people for their business. I had to ask them to sign up. I asked them to join. I asked them to participate. And when I asked enough people, I realized that if they said no, it was feedback. Make a note of that. People say no, it's feedback. And they're generally not telling you no. Don't take it personally. They're generally not telling you no. They either are saying no to the work or no, they're saying, hey, this solution is more work than just keeping my problem. This solution costs me more than it does to keep my problem. That's fine. You don't want to work with those people. Once you internalize, hey, they're not telling me no. They're not telling Bruce, hey, I don't like you, Bruce. They're saying, hey, you know what? Keeping my problem doesn't sound so bad. You presented me a solution. I'd rather keep my problem. And I feel bad sometimes. That means that either it's not a big enough problem, but sometimes I do take responsibility. I didn't transfer that enough enthusiasm to help them overcome it. So I go back to the drawing board and I practice some more. The biggest way to build self-confidence and reduce anxiety is to practice. is to practice. And a lot of people wait for it to be perfect and then practice and realize that practice helps them get closer to perfect. Wonderful example is with these webinars. I'm usually teaching live classes, so it's tough for me to have a one-way conversation. And I've got to work on making some pretty slides. It's fine, but this is practice. So as I wrap up, I want you to understand that sometimes the close doesn't have to be money, just needs to be a next step. 2, present a clear option and ask them to choose. I think it's a lot easier to say, hey, is A or B work better for you versus trying to figure out some masterful set of words to convince them to spend their money. Say, hey, I want to solve your problem. And there's 2 ways I can do that, A or B. What do you want? That takes some of the anxiety and responsibility away from you because they're going to choose what works best for their time or budget. Let me pause there. Any other questions, comments, concerns? If you're watching this live on YouTube, I'm still working on how to get that chat up. But I'm learning as I go. Practice makes permanent. Any questions, comments, concerns? Here's what we're going to do. And I'm even learning this software. This is the first time I've used this software. I hope that gets you a step closer to closing the sale with confidence. And I'm actually going to host another one tomorrow. That one's going to be asking better questions. So a little bit different than closing the sale. We talked about the end of the conversation. Let's talk about the uncovering their need, understanding their problem, understanding their goals. So if you follow me on Instagram, New Skills, New You, that is the second webinar link in the bio. That should be Tuesday. It says asking better questions, because I don't know if you caught this. Everything I said wasn't some carefully crafted speech. It was a question. It wasn't some clever phrase. It's just a question. Once you learn how to ask the right questions for your business and for your clients, you'll hear yes more often. And you can offer more powerful transformation without sounding like a salesperson. Because they're doing most of the talking. You're not convincing them. You're not trying to persuade them. You're certainly not trying to manipulate them. You just say, hey, tell me a little bit about your situation. What's going on? It's a question. And you say, hey, if you're tired of this problem, would you like to solve it? That's a question. Say, hey, listen, I believe I can help you solve this. I've helped 1, 2, and 3, and I've done it in my own life. I want to help you solve this problem. Would you like option A or B? Okay, great. Yeah, option A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it costs this much. Option B is 1, 2, and 3, and it costs this much. Which one do you prefer? It doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be difficult. It does take some consistent practice. But I've got some good news. I am here to help you do just that. Let me see if I can pull this off. Give me 1 second here. One of those workshops, there we go, that I spoke about earlier, talks about creating a structure for your business. The first thing we start off is with the 3 C's. It's clear, concise, and confident. So that's when we present solutions that needs to be clear, concise, and confident. They need to understand very clearly what solution you're offering. It needs to be concise because people have short memories, and you want to do it with confidence. If you're not enthusiastic about the solution, they're not going to be enthusiastic about the solution. All right. We'll talk about the question path. That's how to get them from A to yes. Take that discovery call, keep it 15 minutes, hear yes more often without sounding like a salesperson. So it's a very natural call structure. It's not a script, very natural call structure, or Zoom, however you're interacting. And I've even working on a way to have it as a questionnaire. Okay. So that question path will be covered as well. And this is a live workshop. So a lot of high level information that's going to this one At the end of this workshop, you'll have a clear set of questions for your business, for a discovery call, clarity call, whatever want to call it. And that takeaway is something you can use over and over again, right? And then understanding that no is not the end of the conversation. So we'll have a specific set of questions for what you're hearing more often in your business. When people tell you no, we'll give you some clear questions to ask so they can turn those no's into yes. And we'll dive in a lot deeper on how to present the solution and close the deal. And of course, live Q&A. So this will be hosted on Zoom so we can go back and forth. And it is a 2-hour live workshop. So even more in depth. If this was valuable to you, man, I love having that group coaching because you can get even more to take away and put into practice your business. So I've got a morning session and afternoon. It should be showing the morning session. If you wanted the afternoon, it's fine. Just grab the morning session and just shoot me an email. I'll give you the afternoon link as well. So if you still have questions overall, say, hey, this is what I should do for my business. This is what I should say to hear yes more often and close the sale. But you need more details on the how. This workshop is definitely for you. So this is the 8th, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is a Saturday. I try to help my folks with the 9-to-5s that aren't full-time entrepreneurs yet. And then we do have an afternoon session that starts at 1 p.m. Eastern. I have some friends on the West Coast that asked me for something a little bit later. Of course, I'm happy to oblige. So if you want to take the what to do from this webinar and build a how do I do it with key actionable takeaways and specific questions for your business, hop on into the live workshop. It's asking better questions is all we're doing in 2022. We're not convincing people. We're not persuading them. We're not tricking them. We're not manipulating them. Hey, is this your problem? Yes or no? Hey, I want to help you solve it. Here's option A. Here's solution B. When do you want to get started? We're asking better questions all 2022. I want to say thank you for your presence and participation. My name is Bruce Hill of New Skills, New You, helping coaches, trainers, and consultants hear yes more often. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Y'all have a great evening.